Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear students in grade 9 language schools, today inshallah we will continue discussing and studying a new chapter from A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens' second term. Our chapter today is chapter 12. The title of that chapter is A Dangerous Journey. A Dangerous Journey. Let's start with the summary of the chapter. Mr. Lorry goes to Paris. 3 years of the revolution had passed and it still raged. Some French noblemen fled to England and gathered in Tellson's Bank in London. There was fear that the people in France would break in and destroy the important documents and records of the bank in Paris. So Mr. Lorry offered to go there to protect and hide the bank documents. Charles Donnie tried to discourage Mr. Lorry, saying that Paris wasn't safe and the journey was long, but Mr. Lorry said that he was an old Englishman and nobody would harm him. Mr. Lorry decided to go to Paris at once, accompanied by Jerry Cruncher. The clerk of the bank brought a letter to Mr. Lorry while Charles was sitting with him. Charles recognized the handwriting on the letter at once. It was a letter from France to the Marquis of Evermond of France. The bank was unable to deliver the letter because nobody knew who the Marquis of Evermond was. Charles offered to deliver the letter himself because he knew the man. A title: Charles Donnie decides to go to Paris. The letter was from Donnie's faithful servant Gabelle, who was imprisoned in the prison of Abbey in Paris and was going to be killed because he was serving the Evermond family. He told the patriots that the new Marquis had ordered him not to collect rent and to return the taxes. However, he was accused of treasons. اتهم بالخيانة. Charles decided to go to France to save his loyal servant and restore his good name ويستعيد سمعة الأسرة. Before he left, Donnie had written 2 letters to Lucy and her father, explaining the reasons for his journey to Paris. Of course, you see here, my dear student, that Charles Donnie didn't tell his wife or his father-in-law, Dr. Manet, that he was going to Paris. Otherwise, they will prevent him. The trip to Paris. Donnie's journey to Paris was not easy at all. The patriots stopped him at the gates of every village and demanded identification papers to check his name against the list of names they had. Donnie had to show Gabelle's letter every time he was questioned to prove that he had come to save his faithful servant. When he reached Paris, they treated him as a prisoner, and the officer ordered Citizen Devarge to take the prisoner to the prison La Force. Charles tried to defend himself. حاول يدافع عن نفسه but the officer told him that immigrants have no rights. المهاجرين ليس لهم حقوق. Citizen Devanche asked Charles, why on earth did you come back to France? And as you see here, this sentence, my dear students, signifies what? Signifies that Mr. Devange or Monsieur Devange had a kind of sympathy towards Charles Donnie. He didn't want him to come to France at the time. Donnie asked if he would be imprisoned just because he was the immigrant Evermond without any trial. Devange responded that he would be treated like those poor people had been treated before, in reference to Dr. Manette who was imprisoned for 18 years without trial or without doing any crime. Charles asked Devange to help him send a message to Mr. Lorry, telling him that he was imprisoned in La Force. Devange replied, I will do nothing for you, Evermond. You are my enemy. Now, my dear students, let's see the questions and answers. Take care of these questions carefully. What were the strong obligations that drew Charles and Mr. Lorry to Paris during the time of danger? Darnay's obligation to Gabelle and his sense of honor drew him to Paris to meet his fate لكي يقابل قدره بالسجن في فرنسا. Mr. Lorry too was drawn to Paris by his obligation to save the bank's office in Paris. Question number 2. What did Tellson's bank represent during the revolution? ماذا كان يمثل البنك؟ Tellson's bank was the meeting place for all the French noblemen who had sent their money to England before the revolution. Some went there for business and others went there to know news about the French Revolution. Question number 3. What was written in Gabelle's letter? Why was he put in prison? Gabelle was put in prison because he was accused of treason for serving the Evermond family. اتهم بالخيانة لأنه كان بيخدم عائلة Evermond. He was going to be sentenced to death. هيحكم عليه بالإعدام. He tried to tell the people that Donnie was on their side, and that he had ordered Gabelle to return the taxes to the people, but in vain. Gabelle begged Charles to come to Paris and help him. Question 4. What happens in Paris has its effect on London. ما يحدث في باريس كان له تأثير على London. Explain. That's right. When the revolution broke out in France, the noblemen escaped to London. Mr. Lorry had to go to Paris to protect the bank's documents during the revolution. Charles Donnie was forced to go back to France too in order to save his servant's life. Quotation here. For weeks, I have been asking every French man I know, but no one can tell me where this Marquis Saint-Evermond can be found. Who said this? To whom? Mr. Lorry said this to Charles Donnie. Who was the Marquis Saint-Evermond? He was Charles Donnie, of course. Why couldn't the speaker find him? Because Charles Donnie lived in England under a false name. You know that Charles Donnie lived in England, under a nickname. My crime is said to be treason against the people. Treason because I have served you. Comment. These words were said, of course, by Gabel, the servant. Gabel said this in his letter to Charles Donnie. He was put in prison because he was accused of treason for serving the Evermont family. Gabel begged Charles to come to Paris and help him. Number 7. Will I be left to rot unjustly in the prison without being able to communicate with the outside world? Comment. Of course, these words were said by Charles Donnie. Charles Donnie said this to Citizen Defarge. He wondered if he wouldn't be given the right to contact his friends and tell them about his place. Defarge responded that he would be treated like those poor people had been treated before. They were put in prison for so long without trials or even accusations, in reference to Dr. Manette. Another quotation. Although Donny knew how dangerous it was to go to Paris, he decided to go there at once. Explain. Telling what this shows about his character. Charles Donny knew that it was very dangerous to go to Paris during the revolution, and he was trying to convince Mr. Lorry not to go. However, when he read Gabel's letter, he decided to go to clear his name and to help the poor servant. This shows that he is a man of duty and honor. Number 9, Mr. Lorry and Donny decided to go to Paris for different reasons, but similar motives. Explain. دوافع شبيهة. Charles Donny decided to go to Paris to clear his name and to help the poor servant, whereas Mr. Lorry went there to help save the bank's documents. But both of them went there driven by the motive of duty. Question number 10. The trip is long and difficult, especially in winter. Paris is in great disorder and you might be in danger. Who said this to whom? Of course, these words were said by Charles Donny, said this to Mr. Lorry at the beginning before he decided to go to Paris himself. What was the speaker trying to do? Charles was trying to discourage Mr. Lorry against going to Paris during such a dangerous period. What's the irony in these words? Charles was telling Mr. Lorry about the dangers of the journey. However, he didn't hesitate to go there to help his servant. This is the last question, my dear student. And now let's see a part of the movie. Let's see.
There, sir, in his office.
Come in. My dear Charles, how good of you to come. These are very trying days for us here. Time is so limited.
I hope not too trying.
The situation in France, hopeless. If the bank's documents are seized or destroyed, it could bring about untold mischief. No, indeed, I shall have to go to France myself.
I should be very careful then.
I'm an English citizen. They dare not touch me.
And yet, to undertake such a journey, your loyalty to the bank is quite remarkable.
Loyalty, duty, it's all the same to me. I'm a businessman. and always will be. And, of course, I shall have Jerry Cruncher to keep me company. Now, let me see, where did I put that letter? Ah, here we are. It's addressed to Charles Donnie, heretofore Charles St. Evremond of France.
And it was sent to you?
In the hope, I gather, that the bank might be able to forward it.
From Paris?
Yes.
May I?
Of course. I hope I haven't brought you unwelcome news.
Monsieur Gabelle, a man who worked for my uncle. He wanted to come to England with me, but I couldn't manage it. And now, he's been placed under arrest.
But why?
For working in the house of St. Evremond. All those who served St. Evremond are now in prison.
Good heavens.
I entreat you, please, to release me from this prison of horror. For the love of justice and the honor of your noble name. I have done nothing but to serve and honor your family. I beg you, before the hour of my destruction, help me.
Yes.
It is signed Gabelle.
There's nothing you can do, of course.
Now he will decide to go to Paris directly.
I must go to Paris.
That would be far too dangerous.
If there's anything I can do to save this man, then I must go.
But please, Charles.
I gave him my promise, my sacred promise, that no harm would come to him.
But please, think of your family.
They mustn't know. Not until after I have gone, and my resolution might weaken. When do
So
you intend
he
to leave?
decided not to
Tomorrow
tell
morning.
his
Till soon.
family
I shan't be able to join you.
about
Well, think
this
about it. I
journey.
beg of you, reconsider.
I have only to look at this letter.
Mr.
My
Lorry
mind is made
tried
up.
to
I have no other
reconsider
course.
about going
Goodbye,
to
Mr.
Paris,
Lorry.
but he made up his
Godspeed on your
mind to
journey.
go to Paris.
And yours, sir. And yours.
Citizen.
Now Mr.
I'll
Charlie
give you
on
an
the
escort to
border,
Paris.
and he is showing his papers
Never
to the
before.
guards.
I don't need one.
Silence. Aristocrat. You'll have an escort. And you'll pay for it.
I have no choice.
Choice, listen to it. You'll pay dearly. And you'll thank your God for our protection.
Can't you see I'm here under my own free will?
You are a cursed aristocrat.
Leave him be. He'll be judged in Paris.
Judge, what are you talking about?
Yes, judged and condemned as a traitor.
My friends, you deceive yourselves. I am no traitor.
Enough! You will very quickly discover, monsieur, that we have a decree banning all aristocrats and condemning to death those that return. Now, about the money for the escort. 100 louis.
He has to pay to give them some money to let him
Send him on.
go. As you see, it was a difficult journey until he reached the borders of France. Until he reached to Paris. There he will be arrested and he will meet Mr. or Monsieur Devange. Here we will see and watch the dialogue between Charles Donnie and Monsieur Devange.
Get out. Where are the papers of this prisoner?
I ask you, sir, to take notice that I am a free traveler and a French citizen.
Where are the papers of this prisoner?
All right, come with me. Defarge! Defarge! We have another one!
You will come with me.
Come on.
You are the aristocrat Saint Evremond.
I am St. Evremond?
Married.
Yes.
Where is your wife?
In England. We were married in England.
Without doubt. You are now consigned, Evremond, to the prison of La Force.
For what reason? Haven't I the right at least?
Aristocrats have no rights.
He said aristocrats have no rights. But in the story, it was mentioned immigrants have no rights.
You? It is you?
Sir,
Your wife is a daughter of Dr. Manette?
you know him?
The doctor is known by all good patriots. My name is Defarge. I keep a wine shop on Saint Antoine. You have heard of me?
It was your house, monsieur, where Dr. Manette was found by my wife.
I must ask you, why in the name of heaven and hell did you ever come back to France?
To save the life of a devoted servant. That is all. That is the truth.
It is a bad truth. And you are a fool, monsieur. We have a newly born female here, called the guillotine.
He's
Can
talking
you render
about
me
the
some assistance?
guillotine,
None?
al-maqsala.
Can you answer a single question?
Say what it is.
Am I to have any communication here with the outside world?
No.
There is an English gentleman here in Paris, a banker by the name of Jarvis Lorry. Would you please tell him that I have been thrown into the prison of La Force? Just that only.
I will do nothing for you. My duty is to my country and the people. I am the sworn servant of the people against you. I will do nothing.
As you see, my dear students, now he was taken to the prison, okay, where he will be sentenced to death. But he will be freed in the first trial. In the second trial, he will be sentenced to death. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being with me. Till we meet again in chapter 13, I wish you the best of luck. Thank you. See you.